Have you ever met someone so entitled that they thought your hard-earned property was theirs to give away? Well, that's exactly what happened to me. Imagine waking up one morning on your peaceful ranch, only to find the police at your gate because your neighbor, let's just call her Karen, decided to gift your private lake to her son as if it were hers. She didn't know one crucial thing though. While she thought she was untouchable as head of the HOA, I was the one who held the strings of the very budget they depended on. And when she crossed the line, I had no choice but to teach her a lesson she'd never forget. The ranch had been in my family for 3 generations. It wasn't just land, it was my father's legacy and my grandfather's sweat. And at the heart of it was the lake, a sparkling blue oasis surrounded by willows, where my little girl learned to fish, where my wife painted sunsets, and where I went to find peace after long days of work. But peace had been in short supply ever since Karen moved into the development just across the fence line. She was the self-appointed queen of the HOA, a woman who believed her manicure carried more authority than property deeds. From the moment she stepped foot in the neighborhood, she acted like she owned everything within sight. My lake, unfortunately, was her favorite obsession. It started small, her son, Todd, wandering down to fish without asking. Then came family picnics on my shoreline. When I confronted her politely, she waved her hand and said, "Oh, come on. The lake's so big. Sharing is caring." I explained the boundaries, showed her the survey maps, even the deed. She smiled that patronizing smile people give when they've already decided rules don't apply to them. "Well, the HOA thinks of this area as a shared amenity," she said once. I laughed, but my gut told me she wasn't joking. Weeks turned into months, and the intrusions only grew worse. Jet skis roared across waters meant for quiet fishing. Beer cans floated near the reeds where my daughter played. I was furious, but I kept calm, for the sake of peace. Then came the day that shattered my patience. I woke up to flashing lights outside my gate. Police cars. Officers at my door. My little girl clung to me, asking what was wrong. When I stepped outside, an officer cleared his throat and said, "Sir, we received a report of trespassing. Karen claims you're unlawfully occupying the HOA's lake." My blood boiled. The HOA's lake. I pulled out every document, deeds, tax records, even old photographs of my father and grandfather standing on that very shore decades ago. The officer's brows furrowed. "This is odd," he admitted, clearly realizing Karen's report didn't hold water. Just as I thought it was over, Karen strutted up in her designer sunglasses, waving a piece of paper like a victory flag. "My son owns this lake now," she declared. "I gifted it to him as part of his birthday. You need to move your things." It took everything in me not to laugh in her face. She had written up a fake transfer of ownership, signed only by herself, and thought it meant something. Todd grinned beside her, already talking about how he'd throw parties on his lake. That was the moment I realized, this wasn't ignorance anymore. This was war. What Karen didn't know was that the HOA she ruled with an iron fist was strapped for cash, and the ranch she kept meddling with wasn't just mine. I had quietly been helping fund their community projects for years through a trust my grandfather set up. Which meant, ultimately, I had the power to pull their strings. And if she wanted a fight over my land, she was about to learn what happens when you bite the hand that feeds you. After the police left, shaking their heads at Karen's antics, I sat on my porch with my wife. She asked the question I'd been turning over in my mind. When is enough, enough? That night, I opened the dusty old file cabinet in my study and pulled out the trust papers. Decades ago, my grandfather, who believed in community and goodwill, had placed a large portion of funds in a trust to help the neighboring development thrive. Roads, playgrounds, even their fancy community pool, all had my family's quiet support behind them. And the kicker? The board that Karen ran depended on annual disbursements from that very trust to balance their budget. Without it, they couldn't even pay for landscaping, let alone maintenance. For years, I let it slide. I let them believe the money came from state allocations or anonymous donors. But now, Karen's arrogance had lit a fire in me. The next HOA meeting came quicker than I expected. I walked in quietly, papers in hand, while Karen sat smugly at the front table, flipping through her agenda. The moment she saw me, her eyes narrowed. "This is a private meeting," she snapped. "No," I said calmly, holding up the trust documents. "This is my meeting. Confusion rippled across the room. Neighbors glanced at one another. Karen sputtered, "What are you talking about? You're not even part of this community." I laid the documents on the table. "Every single improvement you've enjoyed for the past 20 years, the lights on your streets, the park your kids play in, the security you brag about, it all comes from a trust my grandfather established. And I control it." Gasps filled the room. Karen's smirk faltered for the first time. "You've been bullying your neighbors, trespassing on private land, and calling the cops on me over property that's been in my family for generations," I continued, my voice steady but firm. "And now, you've gone so far as to gift my lake to your son. That ends today." The room was silent, except for Karen's shallow breaths. I leaned in. "As of this moment, I'm suspending all funding to this HOA until Karen steps down as president." Her face went white. She stammered, You can't do that." But I could. And I did. The board members looked between her and me, and suddenly, all those people who had been too afraid to stand up to her found their voices. One by one, they voted. Karen was removed on the spot. Later, Todd drove by the lake, shouting curses from his car window. But I stood tall on the dock with my daughter by my side, holding her hand as the water shimmered under the setting sun. The lake was safe. The ranch was safe. And for the first time in years, peace returned. Karen learned the hard way that entitlement doesn't outweigh legacy, and that you should never mess with a man who quietly holds the keys to everything you take for granted.